This is a Crowd podcast.
I haven't cried today. What?
Game changer. Who are you?
I know. Oh my God, I haven't cried all day. This is the first. I haven't cried for 3 days. Laura, I feel like I haven't seen you in real life for 400 weeks. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. I hate the world today, but other than that, I'm fine.
You hate the world?
No, I'm good. I'm just a bit stressed. I'm trying to deal with old people in my life from my side and Matt's side, and no one wants to hear me complain, but
Do you know, there's probably a bunch of people here that are like, yes, we want to hear you complain, but yes.
Alzheimer's / dementia / being old sucks so much for that person and their family, and it's just sucky. So I don't want to be like a negative Nelly to start off, but I'm just a bit frustrated today, but I'm fine other than that. Do you know what has made me really happy? Is like, I feel like spring's finally coming, or it's finally here.
It's here. On the day we're recording this, it's probably the first blue sky, no cloud day.
Makes such a difference to your mood, doesn't it?
It really does. I saw a TikTok this morning, and it was like from this girl who was like, I've spent months, really working on myself, just striving for self-care and happiness and doing all these things and journaling and all of this stuff. And then all of a sudden the sun comes out and it's like, oh, this is what we've been waiting for. It's like, I've done all this work and it was all along, it was the sun. But I don't know about you and everyone listening, the winter went on for 15 years.
It does feel like it's been long. I really love autumn and I love like cozy nights in, but I am so ready for summer, like wearing nice dresses and sandals. And I'm saying this, and Lauren is actually in the most fabulous spring dress with a red lip. Is it red?
It's a reddy orange.
Yeah,
this is. I wanted to be as literal as I can. In like, if you're watching on YouTube, you'll notice the last few weeks of episodes and recording, I've been wearing no makeup and hoodies. And today I thought, nah, we're gonna go.
You look amazing.
Green leopard print, orange lips, curly hair. Just to be like, it's spring, smiliness, and this I think we can call dopamine dressing,
Absolutely,
which is my new favourite term ever.
Yes, I love that for you. And I feel like you seem so much lighter. Like, how have you been? How are you? Because you've had a really horrible few weeks. Well, months, actually.
Yes, 2023 sucked up until probably the 31st of March. And then I posted a video on the 1st of April to kind of be like, hey, hasn't this year kind of sucked? Can we just start again? Because that didn't go as planned. And I was overwhelmed by the responses from people being like, also, yeah, all this stuff's going on and this hasn't gone as planned and everyone's feeling a bit ugh. And it was just kind of a point to say you can have a fresh start whenever you want it. And for me, I was going to have a fresh start on the 1st of April and it has been fabulous. And I've done lots of nice things and I feel so much better for it. And my work situation has changed, which is why I feel better, to be honest. But yeah, lots of people hopefully felt inspired to kind of have that fresh start. And whether it's like a new month or a new day or like a new season, because spring is here, hopefully people can feel a bit more sprightlier, like I feel sprightly. I feel so, honestly, I had meetings today and I didn't want to cry. I haven't cried today. What?
Game changer. Who are you?
I know. Oh my God, I haven't cried all day. This is the first. I haven't cried for 3 days. Wait.
Lauren, that is like the fact that that's not good, babes. Like,
no, but we will. Woohoo! To me, I haven't cried for 3 days.
Yeah.
Can you say the same? Are you okay? Do I need to give you a hug of all my sunshiny happiness?
Yeah, could you? Thank you.
Yes.
No, I'm fine. I will be fine. I'm just ready for spring. I drove past the lake today where we swim, and it was like glistening. It was calling me, Smithy, and I was like, "I'm getting in you soon.
You gotta get in. You gotta get in."
Soon. And Buddy's all better now. He had his nuts off and he's fine now, running around with his friends today. So that's nice. And I've not got to worry too much about him. So yeah, life's good. I can't complain.
Fabulous. And we have a very fabulous episode for everyone today. So should we just crack on?
Let's do it. So we wanted to talk today a bit about imposter syndrome. Now, the idea for this episode actually came about from one of our amazing patrons. So hi, Becky, if you're listening, and thank you so much for giving this idea for this episode. I think it's a really important one because it's something that I think a lot of us struggle with. And actually, 80% of men experience imposter syndrome and 90% of women do. So for anyone that doesn't know what imposter syndrome is and you're listening thinking, what are you talking about? It's defined, I've got it written down here, as the persistent inability to believe that your success is deserved or has been legitimately achieved as a result of your own efforts or skills. Smithy, I'm going to come out and ask you straight away, does that resonate with you? Is that something that you have or do struggle with?
Yeah, 100%. And I think that way of putting it is so factual, isn't it? It's the inability to believe that you deserve everything that you've got. And what I will say straight off the bat is I think when we think of imposter syndrome, my brain automatically goes to our jobs and our careers.
Same, yeah.
But I think there are other places in our world that we experience that, and I want to talk about that a bit later. But yeah, no, for me, I have, and I actually have experienced it probably way more, from January to March than I ever have in my life. And it was rubbish, and it was just, my confidence was knocked. Like, I can't even tell you. I come across as a confident person, and I am. Like, this is it. This is not me putting it on. This is genuinely how it is. I am confident. I do believe in my abilities and all that kind of stuff. But then sometimes there's an external factor for some people, and that happened for me. And perhaps I was made to feel like I wasn't super duper fabulous, and it just knocked my confidence to the floor in a way I hadn't experienced. And it took over my entire life. Like, joking at the beginning of the episodes that I was crying every day. I was crying every day because I thought I was terrible at everything. And then that infiltrates the rest of your life. So it wasn't just my job, it was everything else as well. And, texting my friends being like, I'm so sorry, I'm a terrible friend, all this kind of stuff. They're like, what? No, you're not. And I'm a terrible daughter, or crying. My mum being like, oh my God, like all this. And it's just, it was almost debilitating. And sometimes you can have it a little bit, and sometimes you can have it a lot of bit. I didn't enjoy it, Laura. I don't want to do it again. Luckily,
I would not recommend.
Luckily, you can hear I'm a little bit back, but it was really, really, really awful, and it just made me feel terrible. And for me, it manifested itself massively in paranoia. I was paranoid all the time, every single day, that I was going to get an email from someone at work or something in my life, or a message from one of my friends, just saying, you're terrible, you're fired, you're a horrible friend, I don't want to speak to you anymore. Just constantly paranoid, and that's not the way to live, and that was awful. So I just wondered whether, I'm putting that into the universe of our listeners, if anyone else experienced that way. But 20 out of 10, don't recommend imposter syndrome. Laura, what's your experience with it? Tell us more.
Bless you. Yeah, no, I appreciate your honesty, and I'm sure, like you said, I'm sure it will resonate with people and help. I think for me, I'm sort of almost like you were saying, like, work and not being made to feel kind of valued and appreciated, and then thinking, oh my God, I don't deserve to be here. Sometimes I kind of have the opposite, where I'm like, success happens or something really good happens, and I'm like, but why? And like, I think we're both a bit guilty of this as well. And I don't know if it's just a female thing, but I remember having a talk once at work where we both used to work, actually, funnily enough, where we met, where it all started. And she was saying about how a lot of the time women, when you ask them like, oh, how are you so successful? When you ask business women or successful women, they will often say, oh, I got really lucky, or I had help from XYZ or whatever. Whereas like men typically will say, yeah, thanks, I worked really hard on it. So yeah, I kind of always try and have that in the back of my head. But lately, especially with things that have been happening around the podcast, and like, did you notice that when we were about to go on stage at the Apple event, and all, to be honest as well, in the run up to it, we kept saying to them, like, have you got the right podcast? Are you sure it's us? And I think that's for me where it's sort of like it manifests of in like, I don't understand. And when people come up to me in the kind of sort of street, or they message me and say like, oh, your podcast had an impact, or this, you really helped me, or find you really inspiring, I love to hear it, but I can't comprehend it. And I almost feel like if someone paid you to say that.
You'll just
And
you'll just be nice to me.
And I find it awkward, really. I love it. And I really people always message me and say, like, oh, I saw you and I didn't say hello. I'm like, you should say hello. But I do find it a little bit kind of like uncomfortable. And I sort of think that it comes from not feeling like a very, very special. So when the people say like, oh, you're not you're special, but like they kind of build you up, or like you get kind of praise or recognition. It's like, oh, it's like when someone compliments you, like, I find myself all the time, like someone will compliment me on my dress and I'm like, oh, it was in the sale.
It was Primark. It's got
pockets. Oh, this old thing. Oh no. Yeah. I am absolutely horrific at receiving compliments.
Oh my God, no.
Yeah, so that's kind of how it manifests itself for me. Especially with like things that have been happening like since Bake Off, and I'm just like, I can't believe I've got the opportunities that I have done. But I will say that on the kind of like flip side to that, I'm also like really ambitious. So then I look at other people and I'm like, oh, why haven't I got that? I want more. So
interesting.
I'm very conflicted with the whole imposter syndrome thing, because yes, I absolutely definitely feel it, but then I'm also like, I feel quite like I'm, maybe it's just also being self-employed. I didn't really have this before as much, but being self-employed now, I'm like, okay, they've got that and they're doing really well and I'm really happy for them, but I also would love to do something like this, or I want to do more. I want to do more TV. I want to do this and this and this. And then sometimes you feel like I feel like sometimes I don't get the opportunities I want because of how big I am.
Imposter syndrome for you, I wonder like where it comes from. And so yours, I think perhaps a lot of it rests in growing up bigger and being bigger now, because you said before about how, you know, you didn't feel like you deserved friendships and stuff like that, and that kind of attitude will also manifest into your work. And you know, and your work is so insane, like you get to do these ridiculously marvelous, wonderful things that not every regular person does. It's not like you go to work, you're 9 to 5, you sit at your desk and do that. These are different things. And it's incredible, and you so thoroughly deserve it. But I can imagine the imposter syndrome is like clicking in your head. I mean, as your friend and everyone listening here is like, it shouldn't, but that's not going to stop it. And I wonder whether it's because you had that thing of growing up bigger, or those experiences of not feeling like you were worthy and deserved all of this fabulousness.
Massively. I think growing up, I definitely didn't feel like I was ever good enough. And I think... I know I've sort of mentioned this before, but I think I try to overcompensate quite a lot just from not feeling good enough. And so, yeah, I think sometimes when you're in a marginalised body or you feel a bit different, you sort of sometimes feel like you have to work 10 times harder just to get the same other level of respect or like opportunities as other people. And that can be quite wearing and quite sort of tiring. But I think I'm getting better at that as I've gotten older, like knowing my worth and like kind of going, yeah, like, yes, amazing, this success has come and it's, you know, due to kind of like hard work. But I think also sometimes like it is quite nice to be like humble, and I think I've always said like a bit of vulnerability is really endearing. So like if I don't know, like if I was to start going around being like, yes, this success is all deserved and I'm amazing, like I couldn't. It's not natural, but also maybe it's a British thing as well. I don't know, but we're always just a bit like humble, like, oh no, brush it off sort of thing. But
that's such a very good. the quintessential, if you're going to make fun of the British, that's what we do. Oh no, right. Yeah, that's it. It was perfect.
Thank you. I worked really hard on that. So I think a bit of vulnerability is nice and endearing, but what we shouldn't do is kind of like, brush things under the carpet too much, and we should kind of try and sit with the uncomfortableness sometimes of like when we dealt with like good things, because life is crap sometimes and hard, and so when we do kind of get praise or promotion or whatever, we should be like, I worked hard for this, and like be proud of ourselves and maybe learn to sit with the uncomfortableness of it a bit. Do you think?
I completely agree. I think as well, taking compliments feels very unnatural, probably to everybody. You probably don't just need to be a woman, and you probably don't just need to be British, right? It feels unnatural to get that. But take the compliment sometimes, because if you think as well, you're not being fake, are you? I'd hope most people aren't being fake. So if you receive one, that person is genuinely giving it. They're not lying to you. So so take the compliments when you can. I know it feels so gross, but take the compliments, or just remember it in that moment, or just say, oh my God, thank you so much. And then, you can change the subject if you want to, but you more than likely want, you 99%, you probably deserve that compliment. So just take it. It's nice. And if you want to follow it up with, thanks, it's from Primark and it's got pockets, that's also cool, because that, I think, is also women nature. We're always going to do it.
Yeah, that is actually true. That is
Literally,
true.
we're going to do it. I think what you were saying earlier as well about, having and experiencing imposter syndrome, but also being ambitious is really interesting, because I think so many people will be similar, but there will be some people out there whose their fear and their imposter syndrome just outweighs their ambition so much. And I think that can sometimes be the scale. And I saw something recently and it was like, imposter syndrome is where like your competence is higher than your confidence. And
oh, wow.
Yeah. And I think that's so true. And oftentimes that people who experience imposter syndrome, or whatever your variation of that is, will actually be working harder, because they're double checking, they're working harder because they feel like they don't deserve it. So just on the scale, just on the whole, let us say, is off the bat, you're fabulous and you're wonderful if you listen to this, and you absolutely deserve all the things. But there will be some people who experience it so intensely that it stops them, really does stop them from doing stuff.
I also read, and I found this really interesting when thinking about you, Lauren, as well, is that it can also be linked to trauma.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
So if you've had like a traumatic experience, it can, that obviously can affect your self-esteem, and that can manifest itself in feeling like we call it imposter syndrome, but when you kind of strip it back, it's kind of feeling like a phony, isn't it? And like it's about self-esteem, isn't it? And it can be like a trauma response. I
am literally having a light bulb moment here. This is for all my people who are similar to me. You kind of grew up and you were, a student, hardworking, you started your career, everyone knew you, everyone loved you, you were the best in the room. Like literally, in my first few jobs, I was like shit hot. Like I was the best. This is what I've been struggling with actually in the last few months, is like, how have I gone from being that person who was like headhunted for jobs, winning awards, all this kind of stuff, genuinely was shit hot, to shit.
Mate, okay, like, first of all, you're not shit. You're not shit. You're absolutely fabulous. You're the best person I know.
Thank
You're
you.
Incredible. And I think maybe
maybe?
Like, I'm not your doctor, I'm not your therapist.
No, I think maybe.
But it could be. And interestingly as well, one of the other kind of signs and traits of like having imposter syndrome, people that have it, is also overachieving.
Oh my God. I never had any hope.
And like, I think it's strange to me, like, obviously, especially over the last few weeks where you've been working so hard, and I'm sort of like looking at it from an outsider point of view, and you're going, yeah, but I'm shit, and I'm like, I've never worked that hard in my life. Like, but you didn't kind of acknowledge that you were doing good and that you were making kind of progress and steps. And I was thinking, like, this isn't the Lauren that I know.
No.
I think it's one of those things that once you kind of acknowledge it, then it's one of those things that you can kind of then go, I'm doing that, I will try not to do that. And it's about reframing it and also changing the language around things. So like, if we kind of like, maybe we're offered a promotion, and instead of thinking like, oh no, I was lucky, you always say this, is it based on facts, or is it just like feelings, basically?
That's one of the best things I ever learned in therapy, and I say it to everybody because it's so true. So, Laura, in those moments where you experience imposter syndrome of like, I don't deserve this. Well, I mean, don't you? Because I'm going to say you do. You work so hard, so wonderful. All those people saying the lovely things, although you can't take it in because it's just like, oh my goodness, they're not saying it for funsies.
No, but I think also, and this is not me downplaying anything, but I also have to acknowledge that I did get a very lucky break. I'm very aware that had I not gone on Bake Off, I would not be here and I would not be doing this. So I think that's not me having imposter syndrome. That's me going,
yeah, okay.
I was very lucky.
Yeah.
And to be fair, like, I have made the most of the opportunities that I've been given, and I have worked like for some of them, not all of them. That's imposter syndrome.
That is, what the hell are you talking about? That's the thing. Okay, fine. It feels uncomfortable to say you were lucky with Bake Off because
no, but I was.
They don't
babes.
just give it to anyone.
No, I know, but
you were lucky. You were lucky to get it.
I was very lucky.
But they don't just offer it to anyone. you know, you're wonderful and fabulous and you were, you know, entertaining and that's what they're looking for. And you worked hard when you were there because that was really a difficult process. Like 2020 Bake Off crew, shout out, right? But I think that's the thing. You have worked really hard since then for all the opportunities. I'm so angry at you that you even just said some of them you haven't, because I know them and I know that you have. And you have sometimes by just doing something on Instagram and being vulnerable on Instagram and putting yourself out there. Do you know how fucking hard it is to put yourself out there?
All right, but I'm not Nelson Mandela, am I? I mean, like, let's, you know, in the grand scheme of things, like, that's what I mean. It's not me. I also think it's not about me being derogatory about myself, whatever. It's just about being a bit like of a realist. But I think, yeah, sometimes I am probably a bit too hard on myself, and it's.
You are so hard just then. Like, stop it. Okay, you're not doing brain surgery, Laura. But how many people are?
I know, you're right. And I do, that is probably something I probably should work on. But it's funny that you were saying about Bake Off then, because I think that is probably one of the biggest points in my entire life where imposter syndrome got the better of me. And I really don't like to talk negatively about the Bake Off experience, because like I hope it comes across like how genuinely grateful and how lucky I feel to have done it. But it was also probably one of the hardest things in my life that I've ever done, because quarantine, obviously being away from home, it was constant, physically, mentally. It was so draining, and I kind of went into it feeling already like the underdog and the outsider. And then every week, honestly, what felt like public humiliation on like national television, I felt like such a fraud. And this is the thing, is like imposter syndrome, I think, is where like you think you're shit and it's not always based on facts. But in this kind of instance, it kind of felt like it was, because people were on Twitter being like, you're shit, you can't bake. And I think that's half the reason why I don't bake now. And that was really tricky. But even like during the filming, the imposter syndrome was huge. I even remember writing it in my journal, like, I don't know why I'm here. Like, I have major imposter syndrome. I don't deserve to be here. Like, everyone's really talented. No one else keeps fucking up. It's just me. Like, I don't know why they've even let me on. Like, I feel like, have I oversold my abilities? And like, they thought they were getting something on someone that they weren't. And it honestly was one of the lowest points, like, of probably my entire life being there. Like, I cried constantly. I was in physical pain because of my knee and my back, just the constant days, like, on your feet, baking, washing up, rinse, repeat. And I looked at everyone else, like, I looked at like Peter and Dave, and they were coping fine. They were missing home, but they were fine. And I was like, why can't I cope with this? Like, I'm shit. What about you? Would you say the recent...
Oh, well, hold on a minute. We ain't done with you yet. She always does this. Do you notice this, everyone? She'll say something so profound, and then she'll be like, but anyway, enough about me. I'm like, pardon, I need a moment to process.
Do you know what I think that comes from as well? Is that, like, you know what we've spoken before about being the, like, I don't know why anyone would want to be friends with me and being the perfect friend, is I'm always really too aware. If I dominate too much conversation, I don't like it. And I'm like, oh, anyway, tell me about you.
You're so guilty of
that.
that.
You do that as well.
Yeah, we both do that. But it does mean that we both get equal amount of times. That's good. No, I think probably people don't understand how difficult that process was. And it's a very niche situation in which obviously the majority of people can't relate, but we can perhaps put it into our own lives in some way. But that must have just been so hard. Was it a case of like during it? Was it a case of just, you know, keep on swimming, one more day, and then at the end we all collapse and cry a bit?
Yeah, kind of. And it was weird because I remember driving in. Once I got through like 4 quarantine checks, I drove past the tent and I couldn't believe it. And I filmed
you were
a
so
video.
Excited.
Yeah, I think I sent you the video, and I was like, oh my god. And then it's so strange because as I was leaving, I also shot a video driving past the tent and was like, and I think I'm hoping I've still got it somewhere. And basically it's like, wow, the difference I feel driving out, seeing the tent, and it's like good riddance. Like, it's such a mix of emotions. But I also feel quite embarrassed about how I acted and how I behaved a lot of the time, because I don't think I was my true self. Yeah, I think I was, towards the end, I kind of realised that if I swore a lot, they wouldn't show things. And so, like, I remember one of the technical challenges, I just kept saying the C word constantly. And then I remember I actually got, like, told off for it by someone who I loved. I won't...
Did Paul Hollywood tell you off?
No, it wasn't Paul. It was
I'd love to be
else.
told off by Paul Hollywood.
Someone... Stop it. Yeah, and that really affected me. But it was just like I remember just thinking, I can't, like Ian Bill, I've got nothing left. I literally had nothing left in the tank for weeks.
Someone make that meme.
I've got nothing left. I've got nothing left. And it's EastEnders reference if anyone is listening, thinking, "What the hell?"
Yeah. So the Americans out there.
It was so hard, and I think there was loads of times I was like, I want to go home. But then the ambition in me was like, I remember semi-final when it all kicked off and everyone was really upset that I got through over Hermine, but I was sat there in that chair thinking, I don't deserve to be here. I absolutely don't, because she is a much better baker than me. But this week my cake, and it's week by week, my cake tasted better. My cake tasted amazing. It looked like it had been dropped, but it tasted great, and hers tasted like they said it, like blancmange. So I was sitting there thinking, really, I should be going through, but that because of the competition rules and stuff. But yeah, the imposter syndrome was like, no, you need to go home. You're shit. And I very nearly actually said, I remember sitting on those chairs thinking, should I say now? Because it's never been done before. Not that I've seen, maybe they have and they've edited it, but I was really close to going, do you know what? I really think you've made the wrong decision here. I really think Hermine should go through, because I really want to go home. I was so ready to go home. I just didn't want any more humiliation. I felt humiliated. This is the most honest I've been about Bake Off, because sometimes the press pick it up. And like I said, this is not me being ungrateful. Like, I'm so grateful for the opportunity, but it was also fucking hard. And it really ruined my self-esteem for a long time. And I think it really did ruin my love for baking, which sucks.
Because you're Kate. Honestly, you don't get on Bake Off for being average, right? Laura's stuff is amazing. I miss that about you. I miss pre-Bake Off when you would bake for joy and you just go round and you'd have a cake there and you're like, okay, cool beans, lovely stuff. I really hate that, and it's so. God, it was so shit, and it was really shit to be your friend at the time. It was amazing because I was like so proud of you, but I also saw you week by week. And like, I am, unfortunately, I think for the first few weeks I was going on Twitter and everything was fabulous. And then all of a sudden Twitter was very not fabulous. And I was like, why are these people saying this about my friend? And then like, I think there was a few weeks where you just didn't really you didn't go out and it was just awful. But what I will say in that is I think that was probably a normal reaction to an abnormal situation. Like Bake Off in general, or going on a reality show in general, or something like that, is extraordinary, right? Very few people do it. How fabulous. But the Bake Off 2020, they were put into quarantine for 7 weeks. Away from your family, your friends, and everything. In the months leading up to that as well, you were all just baking constantly, and it was 2 days on, 2 days off. But the 2 days off intense.
Weren't days off. We weren't made to, but we practiced basically, and it was like 9 till 6. We practiced.
Jesus Christ! Yeah, exactly.
This is what I mean about the physicality of it as well. Being in a bigger body, being on my feet constantly. I kind of got addicted to cocodamol because I was like, I just need something to keep going because my knee was like hurting me and. It was just intense. But anyway, can we please stop talking about me now? Because I'm done.
Yeah, hold on. But I'm not, just 2 seconds. But then I will say, none of that came across at the time. And so I know that's a case of editing and things like that, but I think you still came across so fantastically. And that's factual, Laura, because of how many times we go out. I think every time that you and me go out, and I'm sure this happens to you all the time, people stop you and be like, oh my God, you're Laura from Bake Off. People remember you. People liked you. You were able to build a career off of it because it started with Bake Off and people really liked you and resonated with you. And that's really amazing. So, I wish it was a sunnier experience for you. And I hope maybe it might take a little bit more time to sort of look back on it and be like, ha, 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 ha.
Oh, no, I do now. I do.
Completely, yeah.
But it's so funny you say that when we're talking about imposter syndrome, because when people do come up to me and say like, oh, I loved you on Bake Off, you should have won. I just look at them and I go, fuck off. But even that, I think they're just saying it because they just recognise me. But anyway, moving on. We are going to move on from me.
All right, okay. But the moral of the story is, Laura, you're so fabulous and
I'm great. You're great. We're all great. Let's move on from the uncomfortable Britishness of all that.
Okay, cool.
Right, your turn.
Imposter syndrome doesn't just impact, as I said at the beginning, careers and your jobs. I think it can impact other parts of your. I think it can impact other parts of your life as well.
Like what?
So for me, I think it can happen in relationships. So I think
Oh,
I've said on the
okay.
podcast before. I remember being in a relationship with somebody, and I would go to the gym constantly because I so vividly remember being on a cross trainer, listening to Dark Horse by Katy Perry. That's like how vivid this memory is, and just being like, I'm doing this because like he deserves to have a really hot girlfriend and all this kind of stuff. And I think, you know, feelings of unworthiness as well, but I think imposter syndrome can manifest itself in other ways. The reason I actually thought of that as well earlier was because of something you said before about how you feel that you don't always deserve your friendships. It's that inability to believe that you deserve everything.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you believe that you deserve that wonderful person, whoever they are, or, you know, a fabulous relationship? So I just thought it was interesting to say, because I don't think it's just jobs.
So, Lauren, we actually had some questions from our lovely listeners, and one of them is quite a personal one, but I think it's a really good question. So I wanted to ask you, have you felt a difference in your imposter syndrome since being in a bigger body?
Oh, God. I think probably, yeah. Not that I've really thought about, but, you know, in the same way that my brain and my personality and lots about me has changed since the traumatic experience thing, my body has also changed a lot because of that as well. So it, you know, it may match it a little bit. And yeah, for a long period of time, never in my job, but I think it's always like your self-worth kind of thing. Self-worth took a knock. But I'm now, you know, I'm 34 years old and I am a confident person, but there's a bit in me that's a bit bratty. And the brattiness in me is like, there's nothing I can't do because I'm bigger. Like, I just don't accept it. It's like, it's bratty and it's unacceptable. And I think I have this confidence because I grew up smaller and didn't have those restrictions on my life. But I don't like them and I don't accept them. I'm just like, I don't consent to the fact that like you're going to treat me differently or the world. I just don't. I really don't. So it probably has.
That's brilliant. That's how it should be.
My brattiness.
No, why do you call it bratty? I think that's a really...
It's probably really demeaning for myself and probably a little bit sexist, but it's that bit in that I do not consent to this world that wants to treat me differently because I wear a size 22. You can just all see you later, bye.
I completely agree with you, and I love that. I think that's so inspiring. But why do you feel the need to call it bratty is what I'm saying. Is that imposter syndrome?
I think it might be. It's just that thing of like, you know, my mum is obviously the most fabulous person in the entire world, but, you know, has always kind of said, you know, there are going to be some things that you can't have. You can't have everything. You know, the fact that I want to quit my job every 4 seconds and just, you know, live off the land. I obviously, do you know what I mean? Like, I can't. She was like, there are just some things that you can't have. And I'm like, my answer every single time is, why not? Why can't I? I can have anything. Actually putting it into action is my problem. I'm lazy. I'm a lazy, confident person.
A lazy, ambitious, confident person.
I'm a lazy, ambitious, confident woman. I've got all the ideas and all the ambition, but I'm also lazy as fuck. So I don't know if that answered the question, but yes, it probably has changed, but I just refuse. I refuse to let the size of my body make me feel more of an imposter than I already do sometimes.
Good. I'm really pleased to hear that.
Okay, so back to the audience questions. Let's see what advice we can provide to our lovely listeners. So Katie said, hey girls, I'm currently interviewing for a new job. I know I'd be good at it, but I'm nervous about seeming cocky in my interview. Oh my goodness, that word cocky, we need to talk about that. And I'm especially nervous about negotiating my salary. I know I should do it, but I don't know where to start or how to start. Have you got any advice?
Lauren, this question was for you. Lauren is great, everyone, at negotiating her salary. Like, I have literally, when she tells me sometimes, I'm like, wow, you go, girl. So you can answer that one.
Absolutely. And what I will say in that, Katie, is you've used 2 interesting words there. You've used cocky and you've used should. You know you should do it and you don't want to appear cocky. Why not? Why don't you want to appear cocky? Cocky isn't cocky. Cocky's confidence. Appear confident. If you are you've already got to the point where you're interviewing for a job. You've got an interview for a job. They're not interviewing silly gooses. You've got the interview for a reason, right? As someone who does a lot of interviews, trust me, you don't get to interview stage unless you've already impressed, right?
True.
And absolutely, every single person should be negotiating their salary. I know there are like some exemptions from that, and I understand, but as much as possible, do, especially as women. And I know I've said this on this podcast before, but I feel so passionately about it. There is still a gender pay gap across the globe. It's one of those things again. This brattiness, I don't accept it. I don't understand. So. So negotiate your salary and get what you deserve to be paid, right? I will always go in there. So once you've been offered the job, before you accept it, you just need to say something like, are we able to have a conversation soon about the salary, and go in and negotiate. And the same thing, like you would do on Marketplace, put in a top level that you're like ambitious, want to get, that's above where you actually want to end up. Do it. As I said, I've only worked public sector since I started my career. I work in the NHS and I negotiate my salary here. Everyone can.
Even if you fake it till you make it, like, wouldn't you say, Lauren? Just like,
yeah,
this is what I'm on now, and this is what I am like, or this is what I'm comfortable with. And not saying, oh, but whatever, like, oh, but I don't mind. Oh, but
if it's okay.
No.
Oh,
but and like, we're so guilty, I think, especially us women, of doing that. Like, we all say, oh, I don't know if I'm being thick, but I do that all the time.
Ugh.
No, we're not doing that anymore. It's 2023. Negotiate your salary, girls. And they're not going to sack you for asking. They're literally going to think, if anything, they're just going to think, fair enough, she's got a big pair of kahunas. Like, go for it. Anna's actually written in to us as well. Anne says, a huge part of how I deal with imposter syndrome is by faking the confidence. We just touched on that.
Yes.
But she says, how do I get myself to stop worrying that people will figure out I'm pretending? Oh.
I am reminded of an interview with Michelle Obama, right? And she said something a few years ago, and she was like, she's been at the table at some of the biggest tables that you can be at with some of the biggest people, right? And she was like, let me tell you, no one's got a clue what they're doing. So, the higher you get, and I think people who are in, if we're talking work again, management positions and high level, you will see there is a level of faking it, of bullshittery. There just is. So I guarantee you, if you've not found out that anyone else is pretending, that you're not going to be found out. And also, you're not pretending, because it's one of those things that we fake the confidence and fake it till you make it. And I genuinely believe that. So on your first day of a new job, you are an imposter because you're new in that way. Fake it till you make it, and you will make it. And the confidence kind of catches up with you. So you're probably always going to worry a little bit, but I think it's null and void, because you're doing this job and everyone is faking it a little bit, and it's all right.
I think that's excellent advice, Lauren.
My God, I should be like a careers
you
woman.
Should.
Like...
You should be everyone's hype girl, I think, anyway.
I would, honestly, if you could pay me my negotiated salary to be an official hype girl, can someone tell me how I can make that my career? Because genuinely, that's it.
That's to
that's
CV immediately.
As the CV, I know, it was my favourite job. Right, Kelly asked, I'm about to start a new job. How do I show my capabilities without seeming too cocky? Cocky! I don't like this cockiness. Pardon. Without seeming too cocky or overselling how much I can do.
Yeah, that is a tricky one, and I'm gonna just be really honest and say that is something that I really struggle with as well, because it's like you want to be like keen and eager and be like, oh yeah, no, I know that, without sounding like you're overly confident. There is a fine line, I think, and sometimes it's hard. But I wonder how many men ask this question. So I think I wouldn't worry about overselling yourself or like overshowing your capabilities or being cocky. Just be yourself. I think that is the most important thing that you can do, is be yourself, and don't kind of like be embarrassed or whatever. If you are knowledgeable, like speak up. If like you do know your shit, you've earned the right to be there. That's why they hired you. So speak up, and do not think that you can't have a voice and opinion, because you can, and you matter, and you're absolutely valid in what you're thinking, and that's why they hired you.
I agree with you that there's a fine line, and I think that's maybe the way of delivering it, but I don't think you can oversell or would oversell your abilities on how to do it, because when you start a new job, one, they've probably been without somebody for a while, so they're like gagging for the help, right? But go in there and go and show them that you're capable and fabulous. That's going to make people probably feel supported. And I think as long as you're not antagonizing people, and I think we've all been in situations where a new person has come in and they've rocked the boat, right? And that's annoying. But that's different than overselling your abilities. That's that person being probably quite arrogant and a knobhead, right? But you can't oversell your abilities. Go in there. If you feel confident, you've got this new job, like exactly like Laura says, you deserve a space at the table. Go in there and don't worry about overselling, because I don't think you will. Just go in there and rock it.
One of the best pieces of advice someone gave to me once was about like when starting a new job is to, like, for the first 2 weeks is not to kind of comment or criticize, to just absorb and listen and learn, understand the culture. And I wish I had done that more at my previous job. I went in like a bit of a bulldozer because I had imposter syndrome, right? I was thinking, I don't deserve this job. I'm not qualified enough. So I went in and felt like I had to be a ball breaker and was like, no, this is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong. We should be doing like this. When actually realised probably should have just sat back initially. Because like you said, we've all had that person that's new and then they think they know everything. And they're like, why don't you do it like this? Why don't you do it like this? Fuck off, Sharon.
And you don't know
annoying.
the history of that team. Because it could have been someone very beloved that something happened to. Do you know what I mean? I think that's such a good idea. A week or two, just observe, just get used to everybody.
Yeah.
This is all very helpful information.
Lauren, I feel like this question was made for you, especially given the last few months, especially weeks. Sarah says, girls, I need some advice about overworking. I've always had huge imposter syndrome and thought I had to be the hardest, most available worker to prove myself. Ring any bells? She says, it's burning me out and setting my boss's expectations way too high. But I'm worried if I rein it back in, it will seem like I'm slacking. How can I prove myself without killing myself in the process? Or do I even have to prove myself?
First of all, no, you don't have to prove yourself. But that is so interesting. And Sarah, going back to your point about thinking you had to be the hardest, most available worker, I have been there. And I did that. And when I was going through therapy for something different, and I said that, and I was like, you know, everything had changed for me, and I was going through a really difficult time. And I was like, I hate that I can't be this person that everyone comes to, and I can get everything done in 2 seconds. And I love being, you know, some people would come into the comms office with an irrelevant task, and I would do it, and they'd thank me for it. And that was really, and I loved that. And my therapist was like, well, what's that giving you? What's that getting you? That's not your job. All that's going to get you is more work. And that's not what you're being paid to do.
So true.
And that thank you from that random manager who's not your manager doesn't really mean anything. This is brutal and it's so difficult. But working more will only get you more work.
It's so true. That's reward for working hard is more work, isn't it?
Yeah, reward for working hard. And that is also, you know, and I say that as somebody who's went through that, and also I've managed a lot of people for a few years now, and as a manager you see that there's that tendency to want to, that person gets through work really quick, you want to give them more, because there's always work to be done. All that does is burn that person out, and I've been at burnout as well. It ain't worth it. Again, my whole world changed when this thing happened, and my work perspective is so different now. But it all comes down to, if you're working too hard and you're burning yourself out, take yourself out for a second and say, is anyone going to die? Now, unfortunately, if you're in the NHS in a frontline role, yes, they may, but that's really not like, okay, I'm not talking to you lot, but like, but really, is anyone going to die if you don't do that, if you don't deliver that particular thing on that date, you know, a week early, or send that email at 2 a.m? No, they're not. It's just work. So, and it's just not worth burning yourself out about, because, again, sorry, I'm so brutal, I've got so much to say on this, like, you're replaceable. They'd get someone else in new tomorrow.
A friend of mine at the moment is in a job where everything is urgent. He's like, well, what's more urgent, this urgent thing or that urgent thing? And he's like, but, you know, I've got to do it. I've got to do it. Like, it's urgent. And I'm like, okay, cool. But, like, it's not life or death. It's software. Like, and it's,
gonna die?
No, exactly. And, like, it's really hard sometimes, but you think you do need a bit of perspective on it.
I think, absolutely. And I think with your worry about, Sarah, your worry about when you rein it in seeming like you're slacking, I would actually have a conversation with your manager about that and say, I have been working over and I'm about to put some boundaries in place.
Yes, that word, boundaries. Yes, Lauren.
Yeah. Because unfortunately, because of the pace that you're working, it may seem like you're slacking, but you're not. You're probably still doing 110% by then putting those boundaries in. Yeah. So have that conversation. And And if they're a nice manager, they will be supportive. And if not, go above their head. Last question, and Laura, I'm going to pose it to you. This is from Poppy. Hi, Poppy. And she said, how can we work on our confidence without coming across as cocky, or does that even matter? I have got to talk about this word cocky. Can we change it? Why has it got to be penis?
Yeah, true. Okay, yeah. I think it is, like I said, it's hard. I think a lot of us worry about like seeming overconfident, because that isn't endearing. And I hate it. It's one of my pet peeves. Chances are, if you're someone that's worried about it, you're probably not going to do it or be doing it. It's the people that are like, don't care, that are going to be like, all the narcissists that will just kind of crack on and be horrible. I think sometimes there's something to be said for like having like a quiet confidence and not feeling like you need to be like the loudest person or the last person to speak or the first person to speak or whatever. And I think sometimes that comes like with age and just experience and things like that. But I think like I want to break into Whitney Houston's song, but like learning to love yourself, like it's the greatest thing of all. Like it is, Lauren.
I knew it would be that song, but I didn't get there. I got, I believe the children are our future.
Oh no, is that the same one as it is? Yeah, yeah. Like, what I mean is, and I forgive the cheese, but just about having a quiet confidence and faith in yourself. You don't need to prove yourself to anybody. Work on yourself, and I'm sure it will come across like to others and like lead to like really good things.
I couldn't agree more. And just 2 final points from me is that those that mind don't matter, and those that matter don't mind. You haven't got to prove yourself. And then one thing I saw again on TikTok recently was something how, and this is really for my millennial girls out there, will remember that liking yourself and loving yourself was really frowned upon when we were kids and teenagers and in our 20s. It was, oh my God, you love yourself. And now it's like the ultimate flex to love yourself.
So true.
And you know, from somebody who doesn't have quiet confidence and is usually the loudest person in the room, and for those that are, I think it's okay to come across as confident and cocky. Like, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think the cocky is a bad word, and I don't think that's what we mean, but to have confidence is fine. And you know, with this whole thing, anyone that's struggling at the minute, know your self-worth. Have a moment, have a think with yourself, speak to your friends. You know, what do they say about you? They're going to love you for who you are. So have confidence in yourself that you deserve it. Work on it. Really do work on it. It's not going to be perfect every day, but maybe slowly and surely you'll feel better and feel like you deserve all the happiness and wonderfulness that you've got in your life. And that is also to come.
Oh, you really do. You need to do a TED Talk or be a careers advisor. That was great. I really enjoyed that. And I think that you in particular are so well placed to speak about this topic, Lauren, with everything, especially that's been going on with work with you in the last kind of few months. So, yeah, thank you so much. And thank you guys for listening. We really hope that you found that interesting. If you ever want to get in touch with us, you don't forget you can email us. The address is golove@crowdnetwork.co.uk. And if you want more of us before our next episode, you can check out our Facebook group. Just search Go Love Yourself Community. And we're also on Instagram. Our handle is @GoLoveYourselfPod.
You can also support the show by subscribing on Patreon or Apple Podcasts, where you can get ad-free and early episodes for £1 a week. Or you can listen ad-free on Amazon Music. And remember to check out our YouTube channel, Laura Way to YouTube. Hi, YouTubes. Just search for Go Love Yourself Podcast or click the link.
Click the link.
Or click the link in... click the link! click the link! Or click the link in the episode description. Thank you so much for listening. I've really enjoyed this. I really hope some people have been inspired just to go and channel their bratty, confident, cocky self. I am reclaiming those words.
Let us know if you have, won't you? Please do let us know if you have.
I'm changing my Instagram bio to cocky brat and just dealing with it. But anyway, I've really enjoyed this episode. I hope you have too. Laura, I also thank you for your candour and your honesty on everything. I think this will really help people. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next week.